guys? We're live from New York City, and you're currently watching the Challenger League of WCS America. I'm Axel Tosh, joined by Axelav, PvP, starting off the night, and we had a pretty crazy game one that I could probably think about for 30 minutes and still not come up with an answer of what was happening there. But it ended up with one player having a DT, and the other player not being able to see the DT, and then the player with the DT winning the game because of the DT.
A lot of you guys out there who played PvP at home have probably encountered games from one end or the other of that scenario. Of course, it's happened to everyone. Jim really fell down that game in Oz, breaking his PvP curse there.
Yeah.
With the win over Jim.
He did indeed, and this is a best of 3. So, you know, it's one of those matches, one of those games potentially for Jim where he's like, okay, game 1, I screwed up. I didn't have detection. I misread my opponent. That's okay. That doesn't mean he's better than me. I could definitely win 2 games in a row. So Jim, he has to come together, figure things out, maybe play a little bit of a safer build, maybe push the game to the mid game, because if game 1 happens again, like if game 2 happens like game 1 did, it's not going to be fun for Jim.
It's really not. And in fact, we think about that Oz versus State match. State was winning games in the mid and later parts of the game. So that's probably where you want to take Oz in PvP.
Yes, that's a good point. I'm trying to remember those games because I remember watching.
There was one on this exact map.
I watched the VODs.
Where State was sniffly behind. And then Oz just took a couple really poor engagements.
Oh, it's starting to come to me, Nick. It's starting to come to me.
In fact, I think it was in Play of the Day on this exact map.
Were there Colossus involved?
There were. There was Time Warp Storms.
Were there probes on the map?
Yes, there were probes on the map.
All right, it's coming to me. All right, here's game 2, guys. Welcome, welcome, welcome. WCS America Challenger League. This is the 4th day, trying to find out who's going to continue on in the bracket stage, come one step closer to the Premier League. Round of 16 is live next week. Be sure to tune in each and every day, 6 p.m. Eastern. But here's game 2 between spawning in the top right-hand location. The Red Protoss player hailing from Korea, representing Team Evil Geniuses. He is Oz. Up 1-0, he's 1 win away from getting to the next round of the Challenger League. His opponent in the bottom right-hand location, he was number 1 on the Korean Grandmaster ladder for a bit. Plenty of experience under his belt. He's 17 years old, from China, representing Team Invictus Gaming. He is Jim. One of those guys I truly want to ask how he selected his identifier, because I think there is a illustrious story behind that name.
You don't think it was just from the campaign? Jim Raynor?
Oh.
Maybe just liked... I mean, he plays Protoss, though, so...
Yeah.
Hard to tell.
It's a good
but,
point,
you know,
though.
the Protoss work with Jim Raynor quite a bit.
They do.
At least Zeratul does.
You see, that's what bothered me a little bit about the campaign, because like some of the missions, they would force you to fight the Protoss. And I just wanted to be friends with people, and so I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
Why can't I be my moral self and be a representative of peace and love?
Well, you know, not all Protoss are peaceful.
Okay.
Some Protoss are kind of crazy.
Some Protoss are the bad guys.
Yeah, and
you know, I think we had this conversation as I was playing the campaign, and you had to explain this to me. I'm remembering this now. And then I said, okay, let's kill the Protoss.
So, Jim going for a fast Stargate.
Yes, so he already has the detection capabilities.
With the Oracle.
Right.
Or at least the potential to build an Oracle.
Yes.
Of course, if a DT shows up in your base and you haven't even started an Oracle yet, you're probably in trouble. But if you scout DTs, you can then reactively make that Oracle, or you might even make it anyway just to do some harass. But I like how fast he built this Stargate. Relying on the fact that on a 4-player map, it's harder for his opponent to scout him early. And so he actually got the Stargate before he started a single gateway unit.
Well, it's Scout, from Scout to Stargate is my question.
The Mothership Core wasn't... Oh, wow. It was...
What were you about to say?
I thought, because he wasn't stutter-stepping that Mothership Core in between attacks, so I was actually worried to probably get past it for a second. But Jim knows better than me. He knows he could handle that. And it destroyed that Scout.
All right, first Oracle on the way from Jim. Oz has no idea what's going on. He's sending a Mothership Core across the map. This can be a great way to try to scout out your opponent, especially when they're this close by air. But, you know, is he going to scout this Oracle with enough time to prepare properly back home?
Well, let's see. Is the Mothership Core going to see it?
Yep.
It does. That's actually really nice for Oz, of course. I mean, there's two stages to stopping Oracle. First, you have to know it's coming, or at least predict it might be coming, and then you still have to control your defense well.
Yes. Speaking of which, we have 2 Stalkers, 3 Stalkers in the
that should
area.
be
I
enough.
don't see this Oracle doing much.
Yep.
Gonna poke in. He's gonna scout the 3 Stalkers so he can kind of know, okay, my opponent doesn't have a sentry. He's not taking crazy fast. And this Phoenix might force a recall.
Yeah, it will. 100 energy is actually kind of a big deal.
Wouldn't it be cool if you can get inside your opponent's recall and go with him?
That would be pretty cool. Like sliders.
I don't know how
with
that would
TV.
work, though, properly. Oracle trying to sneak into the main. Like, maybe you have to be directly on top of the militia core or something.
Oracle sneaking in there, scouting his opponent. And
Yeah.
he sees the Stalkers. I don't think he saw a Twilight Council.
He
but
did.
Oh, he did? Okay.
Yes.
Oh, awesome. Never mind. I stand corrected.
So I think he knows about Blink. And he's going to put down a Robo right away, which is a great response. And of course, if your opponent makes a lot of Stalkers, the Immortal is pretty much the direct counter of the Stalker. So it's pretty much always going to be worth it to get an Immortal out on the field when you're facing Blink Stalker play.
Definitely true. Immortals, in small numbers, PvP is really interesting. That in small numbers, Stalkers or Blink are insanely good against anything but a couple Immortals. Of course, in large numbers, and once you get Charged Zealots, once you get a couple Colossi out or a bunch of Void Rays out, then Stalkers kind of become a little bit more obsolete. But in the early part of the game, a lot of people, like Oz in this game, choose to go Blink because with properly microed Blink Stalkers, when the damage outputs of both armies aren't so high, you can be insanely cost efficient.
You know what's pretty intriguing here is that Jim is adding on 2 gateways. He could have made the decision, or adding on 1 gateway. He could have made the decision to expand much earlier, but he's delaying that expansion a little bit. And at first I thought he was going to try to do a little bit of an attack off of 1 base to try to exploit the expansion of his opponent. But no, he's just delaying that Nexus, so he's playing really safe, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, he's down 0-1. He saw his opponent had plenty of Chrono Boost on the Nexus, and he was just saying, you know what, I could expand and maybe I could defend it if he attacked me, but you know what? Just get the Void Ray started, get the Immortal started, you know, get these units started first so I make sure I can survive against any Blink Stalker attack, and then I'll expand. So yes, I'll have a little bit later expansion, but tech-wise, if you think about the mid-game army composition, remember how Stalkers are so cost-efficient early on, but as you get to a maxed-out army, they become less useful. So it's okay to be a little bit behind in economy if your opponent is really devoting a lot to the Stalkers and unable to get damage done.
Oh, Stalker's blinking underneath that Oracle. That Oracle is definitely going to die. I'm not sure I agree with the decision of Foot's on Overcharge there.
Yeah, it wasn't
Because I
really-
think the Oracle would have died anyway.
It would have. I mean, maybe it'd save 1 probe. Who knows?
But now the Mothership Core has 0 energy. So
Oz must be confident in the fact that he'll have map control with the Blink Stalker, so he doesn't really feel he needs that energy, perhaps.
and also confident that he's not going to be attacked
Yeah.
anytime soon, kind of
Yeah.
a thing.
And you
Which
know,
is
he's
a tricky thing.
he's probably right, given the way this game's playing out. But in any case, he's going to put on some aggression, going for Colossi tech behind it, which I think is very, very smart in this situation. If you already have the Blink Stalkers to defend the Colossi from the air units, so it's a great way to make a strong mid-game composition as long as the Void Rays don't get out of hand.
And he's going to be able to scout exactly everything that's going on. He doesn't want to lose any Stalkers here.
Oh, he was trying to pick off that Void Ray.
Oh, almost did it.
Yeah, almost lost 2 Stalkers, but he almost killed a Void Ray, so who knows.
Phoenix is being annoying across the map there in Oz's base. See how many kills they got. 0 and 1.
It's a nice little thing. Both players really trying to scout their opponents, both with that Oracle harass and then the Phoenixes just now by Jim, and then Oz trying to stay in his opponent's face with the Stalkers so we can see how Jim's composition is developing over time. The one thing I'm a little bit worried for Jim is he's continuing to focus on Immortals and Void Rays, and
Right.
those are both very good against Stalkers, and they're pretty good against Colossi, but if Oz kind of figures out that's the composition Jim is going for, if Oz just cranks out a ton of Zealots
Right.
to tank for his Colossi, Jim could have a little bit of problems unless he adds in Archons or Colossus of his own.
And, you know, Oz is going to need to have an answer to the Void Rays eventually. Now, he has those Stalkers, but once the Void Rays start to scale up, Phoenix is going to pick up
no.
these Stalkers. Oz caught a little bit off guard here.
That
He's going
is-
to back away. Oh, and they're just going to keep picking up. He could. The Phoenix is going to just pick up 2 more Stalkers.
Okay, very good. That's why Oz turns around, tries to focus the Phoenix to force him to let the Stalkers down.
Wow, this is great control by Jim. As I say that, losing a Phoenix, it was almost fantastic control. But, you know, that being said, units lost should be in his favor here, and it is, 1075 to 687. And now,
He has got
he wants
5
to be aggressive
gateways.
here. Now, let's talk about that Mothership Core again. Okay, deploying the bullets and overcharge right away, but Jim charges into one of his natural expansion. Lots of voters here. Time Warp going down. The Colossus desperately trying to run away, but that's not going to happen. So many Immortals in this competition as well. Oz running out of real estate. Jim with a miraculous push here of 87 to 60 in supply, and Oz does not have an answer. Jim might take game 2 here.
A beautiful timing by Jim there. You know, the competition is a little bit weak to mass outs, but he found a timing to hit right before Oz could get the mass outs up. In fact, Oz was actually, he had 3 gateways that were basically 80% of the way done right when that attack hit. And if it was even 40 seconds later, it could have been 10 more Zelts in the battle for Oz, and the Immortals couldn't have gone up close and personal with that Colossi.
Not to mention, Jim able to take advantage of those stalkers that were kind of meandering at his third base, picking up 2 at a time. And that's actually a decent deal, especially when there's Void Rays in play. If we're talking about anti-air to deal with those Void Rays, stalkers are pretty much the only thing that can deal with them at this point in the game based on the direction Oz was going. Sure, Oz is going for those Colossi, but again, as you said, Jim hitting that perfect timing, taking out those stalkers. And like once he finds that weakness, just hitting right away. You know, the thing with a push like that, if you're slowing down at all, if you're like waiting for pylons to warp in, stuff like that, it's going to be much less effective. So we saw Jim hit as fast as possible, and again, that's why he ended up the push ended up being as successful as
it was. Definitely. The stalkers were so big there because then Oz had to warp in more stalkers, which meant less Zealots, which means no way to deal with that combination of anti-armor damage output coming from Jim.
So great game there from Jim, and that's going to tie up the series. This best of 3 is now at 1-1, which means we're going to have a deciding game 3 coming up in WCS America Challenger League. Don't go anywhere.